Well, Merry Christmas, everyone. Hopefully, you all have a great day with your families and enjoying. And what I'd like to do today is kind of a early Christmas present was dumped into my lap here a few days ago, and this is a trailer for a movie that is highly anticipated. At least I'm anticipating highly more than any other movie in 2012, and that is the new movie by Ridley Scott, Prometheus, which looks to be, if not a prequel, certainly tied into the same universe as the groundbreaking film in 1979 that Ridley Scott, of course, did, and that was the Alien, one of the very first sci-fi slash horror movies that I ever saw when I was younger. So very iconic for me as well. So as we take a look at the very beginning of the trailer here in this first scene, this is kind of a garbled message for somebody, female character saying that they were wrong, and we kind of see a bird fly by, very reminiscent of the message that we had in the first Alien movie. So here we have one of the second or third shot of the trailer. It looks like the ship that this team is on, and I'm assuming that this is actually the Prometheus. From what I understand, the name Prometheus comes from the ship that this team is on. And what it sounds like is it's kind of an archaeological type team, and they're going to some planet or maybe to some moon, doing research into the origins of humanity. This is kind of reminiscent, of course, of the ship that we saw in the 1979 film Alien. So here we just have another shot of that ship. It looks like it has 4 engines. Again, it's very similar to the ship that we saw in the 1979 movie Alien. And from what I understand, this movie takes place approximately 30 years prior to the events that occurred in the 1979 film Alien. So this is a little older, just prior to the events that occurred in Alien, but you can see the ship is very similar, and if you compare the two movies, there's a very, very similar, very familiar kind of architecture to the ships, and for both movies to supposedly occur in the same universe, I would actually expect something like this to occur. So here we have one of the first shots of what appears to be either the planet or the moon. You can see there's some lots of mountains, lots of clouds rolling in, and I believe that this is actually from some of the filming that Ridley Scott did in Iceland. I believe they filmed some of the film took place in Iceland, and we have a few other shots. I hear a lot of people have actually said that this is maybe the original planet from the 1979 movie Alien. Obviously, nobody knows, and I certainly don't know. But my intuition at this point is I'm not sure that this is necessarily the same planet or the same moon from Alien or even Aliens. If I don't know, I think it'd be more interesting if maybe this was another planet that somehow relates to what we see later on. Okay, so here we have another shot, very kind of an iconic shot from this movie. We have a very large humanoid face inside of this very large room full of these pods that have a certain semblance to the pods that we found in the first Alien, the 1979 version of Alien. These actually look like more like containers or more maybe some clay pots or something. I've heard people talk about, well, maybe this is some sort of temple, and that maybe this big large humanoid face is maybe in recognition or maybe reverence to the humanoid figure. I'm not really sure. This is actually really interesting. This clearly, if you look at the architecture, this kind of has a very similar architecture to the ship that we saw, the alien ship that we saw in the 1979 movie. So clearly, somehow these are tied in together. So here we have yet another what I call one of the iconic shots, and we can see that. If you see the lettering is actually filling in and eventually it comes to say Prometheus, this is these lines making up the name is just highly reminiscent of the 1979 movie Alien. So you see something going on. It looks to be inside of the suit. I don't know that this is a face hugger necessarily, but maybe it's some sort of acid or toxin or some sort of biological contaminant. It may be somewhat similar to what occurred in the Alien movie, but certainly very interesting nonetheless. So here we have a screen of what appears to be in a medical bay, or maybe some sort of morgue type bay. And you can see what it appears to be either a helmet or perhaps a head, and it has a very similar structure and morphology to the space jockey alien that we saw in the 1979 movie. Clearly, it's much larger than the human head. If you compare that to the humans, it's much larger. I'm not quite sure if this is either a helmet or a proper head. It's really kind of hard to tell and very intriguing, and it does tie into, I think, one of the most iconic images that I've seen from this entire trailer, and I'll actually be talking about it a little later on in this initial impression. So here's an interesting shot. We have one of the characters pulling something out of a canister. And if you look in there, maybe it kind of has kind of a slimy appearance to it. I don't know if they're vials or ampules or some sort of plastic wrap, but certainly there is something distinctly biological inside of there. And I don't, some people said, well, maybe it's slime, but if you really look at it, it looks like there's some sort of biological structure inside of there, some sort of creature or life form. Or something like that. And this character here, I believe, is actually one of the androids that we'll see within this film. Okay, so here we have what appears to be three vehicles of kind of a large, almost an armored personnel carrier-looking vehicle, and then two smaller little all-terrain vehicles. Clearly, at least what this looks like to me is you see the ship in the background there landed. I believe that's actually this archaeological team ship, the Prometheus, and these are the vehicles going to the ship. So clearly they land and they get to actually really explore this planet or this moon a bit more. And clearly the terrain and the overall environment and ecosystem looks very different from what we saw on the planet in the first Alien. So again, this leads me to believe that maybe this is a different location. Maybe not, but it would be interesting if it was a different location. Okay, so here we have just a beautiful waterfall again. I'm betting that this is probably another scene from Iceland. Clearly this is a much more dynamic setting, the planet at least, than the first Alien, the 1979 version. And we have looks to be some sort of large ship, large object there, perhaps landing or moving. And this is clearly not the ship that the archaeological team landed in. Okay, so here we have people. They're holding weapons and they're firing. So clearly there's some sort of danger that they run into. It has been said that there are going to be no xenomorphs in this movie. Ridley Scott himself has said that. So they may not be an alien, but or the traditional alien, but certainly there's some sort of danger. And if you look at these guys' suits, they're very similar to the suits that we saw in the 1979 version. Clearly these are a bit more updated, and I would expect that. Because this is a properly funded archaeological team versus the first Alien, where they were more like I believe it was a tug that they were on, and they were more like truckers, the quote unquote truckers in space. So their equipment looked a little more weathered, a little more worn out, versus the kind of the equipment that we see in this movie, Prometheus, excuse me. Okay, so here we have a view from a person within their suit, and you can see that they look very disfigured. Something's going on with their face. Is it an acid, an alkali, some sort of infection? Clearly, I think it relates to the first picture we saw with the something going on within the suit. Again, this does not look like a face hugger at all. Well, clearly not. So it's something distinctly different. It may be related to what's going on, but I really think that there's a very different flavor going on here. And again, it's similar to the 1979 movie, but there's very striking differences, and these are just very interesting. So here we have just another incredible scene. This kind of this all this stuff, kind of a holographic display lights up, and if you can look in the middle there, in the sphere surrounding the area in the middle is actually the iconic chair that the space jockey sits on. Looks very, very similar architecturally to what we saw in the 1979 movie. So this reminds me of, if you ever played Mass Effect, Commander Shepard walks in and he looks at the galaxy map and kind of plots his missions and where he wants to go, and it's this big virtual star map. This just is very reminiscent of that, and I think that's what we're looking at here, is probably the bridge of this quote-unquote space jockey ship. Okay, so here we have a picture of, it looks to be one of the female characters. There's something on her. I don't know if this is some sort of chemical, some sort of biological agent, or some sort of infective agent, but clearly she looks to be in a significant distress. This looks like some sort of medical bay, maybe, that she's kind of gone into, and in the trailer she kind of falls onto her knees like she's just in just a severe distress. So again, this kind of goes along with this sort of this biological acidic alkaline kind of business that's going on inside of the suits. So we'll see what happens, but very interesting nonetheless. Okay, so here we have just another one of those incredible, one of many of what I consider iconic scenes from this trailer. So clearly we have somebody jumping off of what looks to be an armored personnel carrier, and appears to be attacking one of maybe the crew members down below. You can see a crew member wearing his suit. And the person or organism attacking is wearing a suit. You can see that he's wearing something that looks like a suit, very similar to, so he may be one of the crew, he or she, looks like a male, but you can see that it is not wearing a helmet, is exposed to this atmosphere, presumably of this planet, and somehow is surviving when everyone else is having to wear a suit to protect themselves. So clearly something has altered this person or this being or this whatever it is has been altered, and it can survive on this planet. So kind of very interesting scene. Okay, this is probably one of the most iconic scenes from the whole trailer, and this one scene really put me over the top. Obviously, the entire trailer I really liked because it didn't give away the entire plot of the movie like a lot of trailers do. Some trailers, you're done watching them and you go, oh, wow, I just saw the entire movie in 5 minutes. This trailer certainly did not do that. I actually have more questions now than I started out with, but this one shot, I think, says it all as far as whether or not I'm going to see this in the theater. You actually see this space jockey. Clearly, this is a space jockey chair rising up from the bottom, from the ground, rising up. But what's even more important is if you look to the right of that, right where the S is, you can see a humanoid figure standing. Now, if you remember from the original Alien, 1979 Alien movie, that space jockey's chair is humongous compared to the human beings. They were tiny when they were walking on what I'm assuming to be the bridge of this space jockey ship. Clearly, that humanoid form is, about the right size to fit into that chair. So clearly, this is a human form, but certainly, if the scale and proportion is similar to what we saw in the original Alien movie, clearly this is not a human per se. So very interesting. Okay, so here we have a still of what appears to be the space jockey ship. This clearly, this kind of this circular kind of crescent shape with on the right there you see kind of the bulbous projection and the two projections on the end. This looks exactly like the space jockey ship that we saw in the 1979 movie. The only difference is from the 1979 movie, that ship was derelict. It was on its side. It looked like it had crashed. You can see that this is in a very different orientation. It's oriented, it appears to be vertically. So clearly this is, I believe, one of the space jockey ships. Is it the one from the 1979 film? I don't know about that. And here we have what appears to be probably one of the space jockey ships kind of crashing or rolling into the ground, and stuff's raining down upon these two people as they're running away from it. A lot of people have said that this is probably the original space jockey ship that crashed and landed. I'm not so sure. In the 1979 film, when we look at when they got into the space jockey ship, that the space jockey had been there for so long that he had fossilized. Presumably that took millions of years for that to occur. If we're looking at a 30-year time frame, that leads me to believe that maybe the ships that we're seeing in this film are not necessarily the ship that they run across in the 1979 film. Again, all supposition. But what an incredible trailer. I think they really did it right by not giving the entire plot away and just giving you enough information to really keep you interested. And this is probably one of the most personally, this is my most highly anticipated movie of 2012. Even more so, dare I say, even more so than the new Batman Dark Knight Rises movie. Anyway, these are my thoughts on the new Prometheus trailer. I hope you guys enjoy. And as always, thanks for hanging in there.